Welcome back to another episode of Katawa Shoujo. Last time we got a neutral ending, and as you could see, we are pretty far in. We've skipped a couple of choices here. This is the only choice that matters, I believe, according to the guide that we follow. Like I said before in the beginning, we don't follow guides until this very point where we're trying to get specific endings. So this was the only choice that actually mattered, and I actually got it wrong. I said wave her off, and it says to address it. So for reference, my medications have been interfering with my sleep. Aside, this kind of thing I wish others would do. Why did I wave her off? Address it. Ooh. I don't know, because I think she would want us to address it, almost. It feels like addressing it is something that she would kind of want to know, but it's very direct and rude, where waving her off is like, no, it's okay, like, it's fine. I'm just going to wave her off. Why didn't I address it? She always wanted things to be, like, up front. I don't know why I waved it off like that. Come on, you worry about me more than I do at times. It just means that I have to sleep a bit longer, that's all. But still, I'd say that I look absolutely fine, but I guess that wouldn't have a lot of meaning for you. She gives a sigh of concentration before trailing off with an amused chuckle, giving up the point. If you say so, please take care of yourself, Asao. Go on, Hanako could use some help. Really? She moves to protest, but reluctantly acquiesces and disappears into the kitchen, her hand running along the smooth white walls as she slowly walks. For a while, I sit and watch the television in an attempt to waking myself more. Yeah. Okay. That didn't seem like very impactful. I'm surprised that that's like the important one. The entire time, like all the choices don't usually matter, but except that one. So this route actually seemed really short. I mean, just looking through the sped up game, it didn't seem like, because this didn't seem like that long ago. Indeed, exams will be starting too, which would be another thing to deal with. Think you're ready for them? I think so. I don't think it will be a pleasant period at all, though. I can't say I disagree with her. The exams had completely slipped my mind for a while now. Even though I may score well on most of our tests, I can't assume that pass easily with so little studying beforehand. Lily does seem more studious, or at least more regimented than me. That said, she has to contend with doing rather badly in some subjects, no matter how she tries. At least that'll only be for a couple of weeks. On the bright side, it won't take long before the summer holidays to arrive after our exams have finished. We could come back during the summer holidays if you want. For a moment, she thinks of the notion. So this is an important scene, now that we know what happened. For a moment, she thinks on the notion, her face becoming somewhat distant. I can only guess she's reflecting on all that's happened here. She's not. She doesn't know if she's coming back. That would be good, I think. I nod approving, smiling at her. Okay. Now I'm back here. It looked like everything was playing out the same. Even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part of our lives now, something that can never be replaced. But then we just show back up. It just keeps going. The snap of my mobile phone's closing contrasts with the ambient chatter of the noise audible even in the hallway outside the library. It's the first day of the summer holidays, a time that has perpetually seemed so far away, and yet now it's not only here, but also made painfully obvious by the students, or lack thereof, left in the school. Most students have returned home to spend the holidays with relatives by now. The few that are left mostly chatting between themselves, usually about what they intend to do in the coming weeks. It makes me feel like the odd one out for taking advantage of the school library being open for the first several days of the holidays. Ostensibly, it's for students to drop off any books they're borrowed and have yet to return, and for those who will have their parents pick them up to pass the time until they get whisked away. Thanks to the recent lengthy phone call from my parents, which was so rudely awoken me from sleeping on a beanbag at the school library, I'm now in the latter category. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, this time remembering to set it to silent, I go back into the quiet and wholly placid room. It's a nostalgic sight. Just as when Lily first led me to the library, the orange tint of the sunset bathes into the room in its light while Hanako sits on a beanbag, silently reading, and Yuko fusses just barely visibly behind the counter. Hanako especially has been noticeably more quiet than usual since yesterday's happenings, and I can't really blame her. It wasn't just me that depended on that person, after all. I quietly walked back to the beanbag near where I'd sat before, being doubly careful to not make any unnecessary noise. A soft puff gives the bag. It takes in my weight, while Hanako's eyes flick towards me, but only for a second. I get the feeling that Hanako's been quiet only partly out of sadness following Lily's departure. Rather, she seems more thoughtful and measured than I'd expected. Perhaps due to her desire of working out how to deal with Lily's leaving rather than just being depressed over it. Makes me a little proud of her. Hey, Hanako? Yeah? Still going ahead with your idea of traveling? She gives a determined nod. I'll be starting in a day or two. Naomi's decided to come with me too. Wow, quick start. Where are you headed off first? I think we're gonna start by going north, then loop down and go southward. So Hokkaido's gonna be the first? She gives a nod. Another nod. More tentative than the last. The significance of that place is not lost on either of us. Do you know how you're gonna handle the traveling expenses and accommodations? Yeah, I've worked everything out. I think I should be okay. Naomi says she has her side worked out too. You know that if you need anything, you can just call, right? I gave you my number before, and any time of the day is fine. She gives a smile. Oh, she's so cute when she smiles, which in itself feels a small personal victory. I know. Thanks, Esau. Maybe Lily was right. Although I may offer on Hanako my help I can possibly give, I feel as if I know she doesn't need it. She really has grown. Hanako's plans for her holidays are in sharp contrast to my simple following of my parents' suggestion to stay with them. Holidays had always made me feel less excited than most, though, so maybe this is just a return to the status quo. Before my heart attack, I'd always lived so aimlessly that holidays weren't all that much different from my everyday life anyway. After school, I'd wander around a bit into the city, often hang out with some friends, before making my way home to eat dinner with usually one of my parents, but rarely both. Their work schedules didn't leave much time for them to be home, and going there straight from school would always have just meant I'd end up feeling bored. I was an urbanite through and through. Since coming to Yamaku, though, it feels like I've fundamentally changed as a person. The phone call of my parents erased any traces of doubt I might have held on that in any case. While before I had exercised a fairly normal level of independence for a teenager, that being not a whole lot, my parents were more than pleased to hear of my newfound ability in taking care of myself. Laundry, cooking for myself, cleaning, all in addition to other general chores that come from living without parents around. Just little menial things I've had to pick up, but with relative ease. When I think about it, I've always depended on them, even if they hadn't always been home all the time. To say I never depended on anyone after moving to Yamaku dormitories would be far from the truth, though. Excuse me. The two of us look up, awkwardly fidgeting figure in front of us. Some things never change. It's getting close to closing time, so, Oh, right. I'd forgotten about the library closing earlier during the holidays. Hanako and I both get up and dust ourselves off, placing our books back on the shelf behind us. The fact that our tastes in reading material have a fair amount of overlap is useful at times. With a bow to Yuko to apologize for taking so much time, Hanako takes her leave of us. See you tomorrow, Isao. Bye. And with that, she walks out of the large wooden aging doors that herald the entrance to the library. She's a quiet person, isn't she? I suppose I should be surprised at a staff member sharing our personal opinions like this, but after knowing Yuko for a while, it's largely expected. Our relationship is more personal, rather than one of her acting as an authority figure. Yeah, I think that's just how she is. She's got a lot more confidence in herself these days, though. I don't know her as well as you do, but I think I agree. It's nice seeing her talking to the people here. She used to never do that before. Hey, Yuko, you know about Lily's leaving, right? She told me herself a few days ago. It must be hard leaving everyone behind like she is. She quickly looks back to me after she says this, probably remembering that I went to her for advice on the relationship between Lily and me before. Are you gonna be okay? That's a difficult question. It's something I'd rather not think about for now, though, given more pressing issues. Something seems kind of off about this whole deal, don't you think? Yuko appears to think for a while, absent-mindedly scrunching her face up in a variety of creative ways as she does so. I don't think I really know her well enough to make that kind of judgment. Bro, I don't think we know her that well enough to make that kind of judgment. What do you mean something's off? I'm sorry, I can't be more help. No, it's fine. I'm just sort of thinking aloud. I give a deep sigh and scratch my head in frustration. There's just so much stuff happening all at once that I have no control over. It just feels like I'm being swamped. I think that everyone goes through something like that. What's more important is to concentrate on what you can do rather than what you can't do. At least that's how I see it. If if I didn't think like that, I think that I'd be able to manage my life as it is. She says that with a smile and a light tone, but her words are far from any kind of joke. Being pulled between two jobs as she is, just to hopefully make enough money not only to live, but also for university, must be exhausting. Perhaps that's why, coming from her, this feels like it has more meaning than if it had to come from most others. I guess you've got a point there. Thank you for your advice. Once again, Yuko. She bows deeply and smiles again before making her way back to the counter where she spends so much of her time. The tiny wings of the cardboard crane on my fingers are only visible from the dim lights of my room, just a little of the moonlight being able to peek through the curtains and around its edges. Cute. I lie in the dark of my bed for a long time, idly looking up at the little origami bird. It feels like a lot's happened since Lily folded this, but at the same time it feels like very little has changed. Compared to everyone else, I'm back to square one. I might have a newfound idea of where I want to go in life, but that's hardly something that affects me now. Hanako changed, I know that much. If anything, she just makes me feel like I've got no excuse to be like this, considering her previous situation. Lily, though. I turned the bird in my fingers another way, looking at it from yet another angle. When I first met her, she seemed aloof and perhaps somewhat distant. Her actions were always careful, measured, and precise, and her carefully maintained composure always gave the appearance of unerring confidence and serenity. Sorry, I have to stretch so much. Holy. Ugh. In time, she became less formal, just a bit, but enough. It felt good to see her lowering her inhibitions around me and opening up even just a little of her own accord. It felt as if I were seeing her real self slowly become more vibrant and visible. Now, though, I'm beginning to have doubts. Perhaps they're to be expected after what is, effectively, the two of us breaking up. They don't feel new or strange, though, but rather like an old book being found and dusted off. I soon realized after meeting Lily that she saw me as she did Hanako, as someone who needed help and care. At first, I simply thought that we'd just be fine as friends, helping each other through our limited time together in school. But then I began to treasure our moments together more and more, from our quiet walks in the morning over lunch, to our talking over lunch. The good sides of her personality became ever more obvious and ever more likable. The absence caused by Lily's trip to Scotland to visit her long-distance family and sick aunt only made me realize how much I just liked being around her, and I thought that she felt similar in a way. For her, though, maybe that wasn't everything to our relationship. Even after she returned to Japan, that just meant she lost her family once again after meeting them for such a brief time. She lived so much of her life without her family around, not to mention with Akira working long hours, that she just had little choice but to be like that. I had thought her sense of independence to be a good and admirable trait. It was a stark difference to my reliance on my parents before my heart attack, and reluctant as I may have been to admit it. However, it was also meant she never let people get too close to her. She lost her family likely due to her blindness, went to a different school from anybody she knew because of it, and worked all the harder to make sure that she didn't end up a burden on her sister and those around her. And now Akira's gone to Iverness, just like her family thought she'd lost. Just like the family she thought she lost. She never told me her plans, as conflicted as she was about them. Lily didn't want to be a burden on anyone, including me. I'm an idiot. I never questioned it. I never tried to be there or asked when she needed me to. I just set my life up and expected it to stay that way forever, with the two of us having a nice, long relationship where we pushed forwards together with our futures together. Towards our futures together. A small pit of frustration and anger at myself wells up in my chest. I just let everything happen, never even trying to help Lily. Just her being there was enough. I thought I could just keep going if that were true. Oh God, I hit my cord. You good? You good? You living? Alright, sorry, this is important. Sorry I ruined the moment. But that could never be enough. It was a childlike dependence on somebody, without any attempt to understand or help their situation. Thanks to that, I lost Lily. I lost the one person I loved most because I wasn't there for her when she needed me. With an increasingly angry feeling washing over me, I turned over and set the crane back on the desk next to my clock, the place where it had lived since the day she folded it for me. Since that day when she herself said that my burdens needn't be my own, the obnoxious bright red numerals of my alarm clock shine through the darkness of the room and my tired eyes. 10 o'clock, evening. The curfew will be soon. I wonder. Akira mentioned they'd be leaving this evening. I have no idea exactly when their flight is, but that means there's a chance, however small, that they might not have already left. Adrenaline starts to move through my body as I sit up on my bed, my eyes suddenly wide with possibility. There's no guarantee that they haven't left. Indeed, it's likely that they already have, but there's also a chance that they haven't, however small it may be. Maybe just this once, just as I should have said before. I stand up and rush over to my cabinet, throwing out some clothes as fast as I can and sliding them into quick succession. Every second that goes by is a second that I cannot regain, a second that may mean the difference between catching them and losing them forever. Even if I fail, I have to try. I can't let her leave behind without even trying to stop her, without just this once being there for her. With the last of my clothes slipped on, I hastily grab my phone off the desk. Luckily, the number for a local taxi company is still in my call history. Why? When the fuck? Oh, I guess maybe we went to the restaurant. A gruff, unenthusiastic voice announces the name of the company while I pace around the room. It takes some effort to slow down my voice and keep it clear over the phone. The chilly night air sweeps me as I open the dormitory door, but nevertheless I keep up my brisk speed as I half jog, half run out to the school gates. It may not be curfew just yet, but it's precariously close. There were a guard around, and they'd have no doubt some questions for me, but it looks as if I've managed to come out just before they arrive, or they're around the corner. My pace picks up as I make my way through the school gardens, their nighttime allure all but lost as I begin to run to the gate. The lamps of the courtyard, dim as they are, provide just enough illumination to light all the way to prevent me from tripping over the buildings themselves on a rustic, almost antique-looking edge when I glance at them. Looking back, it seems strange that they once appeared so dark and looming to me. Now they just look to be somewhat anachronistic school buildings the same way others bar their age. Leaving the gates behind me, I pull up to a stop just before the taxi, parked just as Akira's car had been. Its gaudy and brightly lit up sign looks out of place in the quiet country backdrop. I impatiently squeeze myself through the door, giving the driver the address for where the two should hopefully be staying. By the time the taxi pulls up after its trip maddeningly casual speed, it's well and truly deep into the night. The house is truly enormous, its sheer size much larger than I'd expected, and still ominously still. Fearing the worst, I ask the driver to stay, just in case my efforts are for naught. A single press on the fancy intercom system outside the gates produces a short electronic melody. Sorry, I was looking at my camera. In the otherwise silent road, it's not long before a somewhat deep, gruff voice can be heard from it. This is the Hakamichi residence. Please state your name and why you're bothering us this late. I totally forgot his voice. I press on it despite the inwardly wincing at the reasonable annoyance audible in his voice. It's a sound Akai. I was really hoping to meet with Lily or Akira if they're still here. Surprisingly, I managed to summon quite some energy to my voice, enough to make the other side of the intercom silent. A few seconds pass just before I press the button again and ask what's going on. A light turns outside the front door. I strain my eyes to try and make out who's coming through, but as he comes past a large parked car with fishing rods sticking out the back, his identity becomes clear. His face is typically placid and emotionless as he saunters up to the gate. Oh, was that, what's his name? Shit, my bad. I thought it was his dad. He's still childlike in his mannerisms despite his demeanor. With the press of a few buttons behind the fence, the gate slowly opens. I thought it was his dad. Bisao, what are you doing here? Sorry, I was pretending to be my dad to scare off intruders. I think this is the most emotion I've ever heard from his voice, not that it would be hard to reach that mark. Kira told me that she and Lily would be staying here the night before they left for their flight. I need to talk to Lily just one last time. Are they still here? The look on his face says everything. I failed. I was too late. This one time I actually needed to act quickly, and actually, it's possible. What is it? He's a bit taken by my fervor, but I can't help it at this point. They left out long ago, only a few minutes before you arrived, in fact. If you go straight to the airport, you might be able to... Is how? I dart back towards the waiting taxi, grabbing what little money is left in my pocket as I go. Thanks, Hideki. With that, I take a seat and order embark my destination. My chest beats wildly as I tear down the street, my body twisting with this way, and to slip between my pedestrians walking back and forth beside me. With the roads solidly blocked by taxis and other cars dropping off passengers and picking up others in the time that they have to wait, we ended up having to stop almost a block away. But that's in the past now. What matters is reaching Lily. One foot hits the ground, the other quickly following without the slightest thought, as if my legs had taken the life of their own, and my mind can do is concentrate on the view ahead of me. Just one glimpse of that long hair of hers, that long yellow hair that was the same color as the wheat that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the end, I depended on Lily, just like Hanako did. Even after we started going out, it doesn't feel like she really ever let herself depend on me. Except for one moment. That one moment we held each other tightly on that bright yellow field. At that time, she must have feared losing me just as she did everyone else. That's why, just this once. The night air wraps around me, draining every last remnant of warmth out of my body, to the extent that it feels more like midwinter than a summer's night. My fingers, my hands, my feet, they all feel increasingly cold. The sound of the passing crowds is reduced to no more than backroom hum, while the sound of my shoes hitting the pavement echoes loudly, every step surging toward the person I have to catch. Forced by my chest tightening in response, the cold of the night, I rest an arm over it to try and settle down. That'd be so sad. He just runs up and reaches her, and then he just has a heart attack, embarrassing her in front of the entire airport. When the airport comes into view, though, I realize its feeling is if one I felt before. Not now, of all the times for this, please not now. I take a gulp and soldier on regardless, pushing my body as far as it will go. Sweat pours off me as I hurtle forward, my shoulder hitting someone's side as my mind suddenly flooding with emotions and memories. I continue on without an apology. I have to keep moving now. If I stop, I'm not sure I could begin again. And even if I could, it would all be for naught if I'm not in time. I hit another person, then another, offering little resistance to getting bounced about. My feet feel numb, my arms losing all feeling, my chest forces me to hunch over awkwardly, tightening it ever more. The afternoon in the white snow, that time when my life is irreversibly changed, images of Wanako and that damned letter flash over my mind, the first love I'd lost thanks to my condition. I can't let that happen again. I don't care what happens to me anymore, I just need to see her one last time. There. She's so tall. Oh my gosh. I mean, I know we brought that up, but damn. A sliver of yellow and white comes into view, some distance down the road, her figure silhouetted by the lights emanating from the airport entrance. Lily! Lily! Lily, stop! Please, Lily! Come on, Lily, I know your hearing is far beyond Gah! My view suddenly spins out of control and ends up on the ground, my body haphazardly sprawled after hitting someone and stumbling over. Before I can assess the damage, the unbelievable pain ignites my body all throughout. All my thoughts are blanked as I curl up, frantically clutch at my chest. Hey, are you okay? That was a really bad fall. This pain, I can't. Any sharp knock could do me in. Any overexertion, I thought I could overcome my limits this once more. Something's wrong with him. What's the matter? The voices of those gathering around me is gradually replaced by a loud ringing in my ears. By now, I'm unable to move my head, and my eyes turned upwards to see the mute moving of their lips. Oh, man. Even as I clutch on my chest, I realize I can't feel my fingers anymore, nor my feet. It feels like my entire body is shutting down, starting from my extremities. With one last effort, I turn my head down the road toward the airport entrance that's casting its light over me. Lily is there behind the crowd, her head tilted, but only slightly. As I can feel my vision dimming as I try to yell out, but nothing emerges from my mouth despite my best efforts. Slowly but surely, my vision begins to black out of the scene before me. So this is how it ends. I failed. I was so close, so very close, but at the very last moment, my condition seized my chance at a new life and dragged me back. Now I'm going to die, sprawled out just meters over from the airport, with a crowd of babbling people around me just as Lily is leaving for Scotland, just a short distance ahead. Lily. That last word extinguishes the last of my energy. The world falls into a deep, inescapable blackness as every muscle in my body shuts down. I'm sorry, Lily. I was too late. That wasn't an ending. Okay, I was like, that did not just end there. That'd be so crazy. Holy. Oh my gosh.